We've been continuing to explore the questions, where are we and what is it that's present when our karma has been burned, our conditioning has been stripped away, and our belief systems dropped. You know Mullah Nasruddin. We know that he loved to go to the coffee shop to natter with his friends. And you know, Mullah Nasruddin would often state that he was a God-drunken lover. And sometimes he'd take that quite literally by stopping at the local tavern on the way back home. And on one such occasion, when he was walking home, he got very thirsty. So he decided to stop by the town well just outside the village. When he went over and he looked down into the well, he saw the moon. And he said, "My goodness, what are you doing down there? Let me help you. I'll put down this bucket for you." But as he was lowering the bucket down, it got caught on a little rocky outcrop at the side of the well. And as he tried to yank it free, it knocked him right over, so he landed on his back. Looking up at the sky, he said, "Oh, there you are. It's so good that I came by. I'm glad to be of service." And there's a story about the great Maggid, that great rabbi who founded Hasidic Judaism. And there was an occasion when he was going from town to town raising funds for a group of his faithful who had been incarcerated wrongly. But he came to a certain town where it was infamously known that the richest man in town was also the greatest miser. It was known far and wide that anyone who came to this miser's door was given most ceremoniously a rusty copper coin, which everyone threw back into his face. Now when the great Maggid came to this town and went to the synagogue, he said that the first place that he wanted to visit was the home of this miser. And everyone advised him, "Oh, don't go there. You know that he's known not to give anything but this copper coin." But the great Maggid insisted that this be the first house that they visited. And he also asked that two of the rabbis of that town accompany him when he visited this so-called miser. So when they came to the front door and the miser answered the door, he invited them into his very palatial drawing room, asked them what it was they wanted. But before entering the house, the great Maggid said to the two rabbis who accompanied him, "Please, do not say a word. Whatever it is that occurs, say nothing." So when they entered and they were seated in this magnificent embroidered seats of the drawing room, they stated what it was that they had come for. And the miser said, yes, I understand the plight. Let's hope that sometime in the future the fate of our people will be alleviated. And he went off and he came back with his little embroidered sachet and with its rusty copper coin. Well, to the great surprise of the two rabbis who accompanied him, the great Megid started to thank the miser so long and loudly, heaping praise on him for his giving, and it went on and on, to the great shock and surprise of the two other rabbis. And the great Megid even wrote a flowery poem as a receipt for this gift. And so they were escorted out of the house, and they just stepped outside the door when one of the rabbis hissed to the great Megid, "You should have thrown it back in his face, old miser that he is." And the great Megid said, "Wait, just wait, keep your peace." And they had not gone but a few steps down the pathway when suddenly the door flung open and the miser said, "Please come back, please come back, come back." And so when they returned into the palatial drawing room, the miser said, "Ma'am, I've decided to give, how much is it that's needed?" And the great Megid said, 5,000 rubles. And the miser said, well, I've decided to give 1,000 rubles. And so again, the great Megid wrote a very flowery receipt and heaped praise on the miser for his generosity and his gift, and they were escorted out the front door again. And as they were walking down the path, the great Megid said, "Just wait a moment." And just as they paused on the path, the door flung open again, and it was the miser. Come back, please come back." And so, for the third time, they were escorted into the drawing room, and the miser said, "I've decided to give all of the money that's needed. Here's the other 3,000 rubles that's needed." Well, of course, he went through the same little motions again, writing a flowery receipt, and again they were escorted out of the house. As they walked down the path, the rabbis said to the great Megid, "What miracle is this? How was this done? This miser." And the great Megid said, "This man is no miser. No one is a miser, but he had never known or experienced the joy and pleasure of giving." And then there's that final story, well known, about the time when Jesus was walking down the road with his disciple Peter, and they came to a place that was deeply entrenched in the faith of the day, and they reviled Jesus as he passed, spitting at him, sending vitriolic words in his direction. But as Jesus walked along, he turned back, and with his hands together at his heart, sent blessings to the people and the populace. When they came out of that town, Peter said to Jesus, "Why did you not scold those people?" And Jesus said, "I can only spend what I have in my purse." What is the difference or the similarity between these stories? How does it bring us to a place where we begin to recognize what it is that's present when karma's been burned, conditioning stripped away, and our beliefs dropped. What do these stories evoke for us? As a recognition, perhaps, a gleaning, a glimmer. Of what it is that's present. And the onion's been peeled. The space, the presence. What is it we have in our purse when all has been stripped, dropped, burned?
So lack of expectation, of judgment,
Yes.
of blame, of openness to a different view.
Yes.
Of no view.
Of no view. And yet we have this story of the miser. He had never known the joy, the pleasure of giving. What does it mean for us in this space?
Invite them in.
What is it you're finding with your encounters with others now? When there's no judgment, no expectations, no imposition. They visibly sigh and relax and open themselves. What is it that's present in presence, experienced by those who come into our aegis?
There must be an echo in them.
Pardon?
There must be an echo inside the person that brings a new vibration that they don't even necessarily understand. But when we don't react anymore, there's no action,
No.
and the response is...
There's no threat.
No threat. No threat. And what happens in those circumstances?
Everything drops and it's relaxed, and you could say that there's that feeling of compassion that we feel in awareness when we're not judging, and you just see it for what it is, and there's no judgment on it. And then there's the alchemy of change, and then feeling safe maybe.
Yeah, absolutely, all of that, yes.
I was driving down my other road in the sharp corner, and I cut it off so I wouldn't have to turn so much. And I was on the wrong side of the street, and there's this police car on the other. Had to put on the brakes because it's gonna hit me. And so we went past, and then the police turned around and came back to give me a fine. And so I opened the window, and he looked at my driver's license and all that, and he said, "Why do you go on the wrong side of the road?" And I gave him a bit of a rave. By the time he finished, he was grinning. And he said, "Okay, just don't do it again."
Way to go.
It's in neutralising something, isn't it? So I can, why not?
Well, I think it's
Neutral.
most everybody gives them aggro,
Yeah.
and they're expecting it.
Yeah.
So we don't get that, when they don't get that, and I was just friendly to them, I feel sorry for them. And just smiled at them and talked to them a bit, and so he said, "Oh, poor bugger, I won't give him much." Well, it would cost him a bit, because they get money from
Yeah.
him.
I remember being picked up by the police once